In this video, we're going to walk through activity 5.14, creating a new forest. Previously, we've been working with subdomains and additional domains inside of a forest. In this one, we're going to be creating a new forest altogether. So here we are on server SA1. We had previously set this up as a new domain called new tree. And the first thing we want to do is remove the existing domain on here. So I'm going to do it slightly different this time. We're going to come up here to manage, remove roles and features. Next, and server SA1. Yep. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove the Active Directory Domain Services role, remove features, and the validation process will pop up and say, hey, this is a domain controller. We have to remove that first. So that sounds like a good idea. Let's go ahead and check. Demote this domain controller. First off, it's going to ask us for credentials. What we will want to do is we will want to move this back to AZ800 /administrator and password 01. AZ800 administrator is the forest root, and therefore we want to use those credentials. We want to choose that this is the last domain controller in this domain. We may run into an error and we may have to come back up here and check this box right here. However, we will try to follow the instructions as is and just say, this is the last domain. Proceed with removal. Yes. Next. Remove this DNS zone. Yes. Next. Ask us for the new admin password. Hopefully I spelled that properly. Yes. All right. And demote. And this should hopefully succeed and then automatically reboot the machine. I will pause and come back. As previously warned, I said that we may run into an error with this lab, and here we can see the error message saying Active Directory domain services could not transfer the remaining data in the directory, and therefore we have to restart. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's cancel this. Go on back to step number 1, remove roles. Next. We'll choose Active Directory Domain Services, and then demote this controller. Let's change the permissions, AZ800 administrator, and password 01. And not only do I want to say this is the last domain controller, I'm also going to say force removal. Not the best way to do it, but I'm going to go with it anyways. Force removal again, and then password 01. And demote. I'll cross our fingers. Hopefully it will work this time and reboot. And I will pause until then. Demotion of server SA1 has completed. I am now logging in on this machine as administrator, and the lab tells me on step number 10 here that I need to make sure that all the metadata is cleaned up out of server DC1 before proceeding. So let's check that out. On server DC1, I want to go to Active Directory Sites and Services. So let's go Tools, AD, Sites and Services. Under Sites, default first site name, servers, I see server SA1 is here. I should be able to right click and delete, but I will mention that sometimes people run into some issues here. So what you can do is underneath server SA1, you will also see NTDS settings. And so you may need to right click NTDS and then delete server SA1. Let's see if it works for me. Right click, delete. Yes. Delete subtree. And OK. We'll get an error here saying that we can't delete these because it looks to be a domain controller. We will say okay. Let's try the NTDS settings. Delete. Okay. Delete, delete, delete. And we'll see if this works or not. Because we had to force the removal of the domain controller, it is not quite as friendly when it cleans things up. And we see an error right there that it cannot delete the object. Okay, well, everything should have worked there. I looked online and there are a couple of other ways to be able to clean up this metadata. I'm actually going to push forward to see if it works otherwise. So on server SA1, we're back here. We previously went in and we said manage, remove, and then we told it to remove the domain controller, but it said we can't remove the domain controller services because we need to demote the domain controller first. So that helped us demote the domain controller. Now we can come in here to our little warning message and say, yeah, let's go ahead and re-promote it to a new configuration. In this case, when it pops up, we're going to want to click New Forest. New Forest, and this will be newforest.corp. And next. At this point, it is going to be simply next, next, next until it reboots. All right, password 01. Password 01. Create the delegation. It will check for the NetBIOS name. All right, next. We'll confirm the paths. Next, next. The prerequisites check has run, and I do again see a couple of warnings, but no errors. So I'm going to click install, and when the install is finished, it's going to reboot, and at that time, we are done with activity 514.